All right,
just like I
there you
usually
go.
do. Yeah.
All right.
All right. Say your name and how you want to be identified now.
Scott Jordan, chief pocket scientist.
Chief pocket scientist. All right. All right. Three, two, one. Welcome back to Keep Going, a podcast about success and failure. I'm John Biggs. Today on the show, we have Chief Pocket Scientist Scott Jordan. Scott Evest. Scott, I've known you since 20 years, for 20 years now, or something like that.
At least I've been doing this for 25, so
Yeah.
you've known me a while.
S-
Yeah,
s-
it's been a while. We go way back.
I
I
know it.
remember knocking on your door, begging for coverage,
Hmm.
and getting some coverage, and some more coverage, and driving around in the Pocket Man Mobile. Remember that?
Yeah,
Hilarious.
that was hilarious. You had one of those slingshots or whatever they were called, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, so talk to me about tell us about the company, Scotty Vest. You guys make clothing, right? And for a long, long time, this was probably the only game in town if you wanted like stuff that had pockets and like extra stuff for your laptops and everything, right?
It sort of is. We formed the company 25 years ago, and almost to the day we started shipping 25 years ago
Hmm.
in over the summer. We started pre-selling, and as basically the concept was,
Here, hold on a
uh,
second. Did your
uh,
video freeze? Did your video
yeah, it's
freeze?
been freezing left and right. I've been noticing that. We might
Uh,
need to get. I've got fiber optic on
all
my
right.
end,
Okay.
but I
So
mean,
it's going to record. It didn't like switch to like your phone or anything to record. No, right?
no,
All right. All right.
no,
All right.
no.
All right.
I'm
So
just ignoring the videos.
okay. So
You have
it'll
an
be
editor, I
yeah.
assume.
If it doesn't work, it's going to record you no matter what. So it's literally recording you as like no matter what I see. So it
I
should.
mean, on the upper right-hand corner, there's a little file that says 98%, and it
Yeah,
says
that's
SR
uploading.
new recording track
Yeah,
created.
that's uploaded. Oh,
Oh,
there you
there
go.
it goes.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
back. All right, cool. All right. Yeah.
All
So
right,
let's.
so pick up where we left off. I
Yep. Exactly.
forgot.
Hmm.
We started Scotty Vest 25 years ago, unbeknownst to me at the time, as the quote unquote first digitally native clothing company.
Hmm.
There were no other clothing companies that were formed on the internet as their exclusive distribution channel. It was almost an accident when I did it. I was planning to go on, to catalogs and wholesale and retail and whatnot, and my web designer creating what was otherwise a brochure website says, "Do
Hmm.
you want to e-commerce enable your website?" And I said, "What? I don't even know what that is." And it'd be another $800, and I was pinching pennies, and I said, "Whatever." And I did so, and by doing so, we became the first clothing company formed on the internet. The premise was initially to design a fisherman's vest concept, but for the gadgets that your TechCrunch and everything you covered over the years, consumer electronics, was intended to carry. At that
Hmm.
time, it was like Sony Discman, and this was pre iPhone by many years. Um, Palm Pilots and the like. So I just like to carry all those things and kept handing them to my wife. And she turned to me one day and says, "I'm not your personal Sherpa. Why
Hmm.
don't you freaking make something that will solve the problem for yourself?" And the light bulb went off, and I designed and patented this first Scotty vest. The
Yep.
patent was about the concept of the incorporation of the wires, because I felt, like so many entrepreneurs did or do, is that you had to have some protectable technology to, fend off the competition. And I've learned that that was a lot of wasted time and effort,
Mm.
because at the end of the day, what's made our products unique then and even to this day are the pockets.
Hmm.
And there's still 25 years later, there's not another clothing company that comes to mind when you think of who has the best pockets, what's the best carrying capacity. There's been a lot of knockoffs and Johnny Come Latelys and GoFundMe's and Kickstarters and whatever, and none of them have the staying power to make a really quality garment. And in our case, we have now 80 different products for both men and women, and focused on high quality, great looking stuff. And I could go on and on. And
Yeah.
we, yeah.
So, well, talk to me about the ups and downs. I mean, I can't imagine that it was probably you were selling out every day. Like I remember there's some times obviously during COVID, and a few other times when you probably had to, when you were dealing with rough sales, etc. So why don't you tell me about like the trajectory?
Well, the trajectory when I first started was amazing. I mean,
Hmm.
I started. I don't know. You remember Dale Coughing and Pocket PC
Hmm.
Passion
Hmm.
back in the day, and he wrote about me, and we started selling out. Before we even had product on a pre-sale basis, and this was, literally 25 years ago, and I didn't know what to expect. I started. You can find me, going into all these, blogs during the day. I don't even know, forums, and
Hmm.
we're having a sale, and we're about to sell out, and it was very personalized, your guerrilla style marketing. And then lo and behold, September 2001, when, just our products were just getting off, was, September 11th, and the world came to a stop. And that was the first moment of, oh my God, no one was buying anything. And that lasted a while because you may recall, conventions were canceled, and people, you weren't allowed to bring things into conventions for a hot minute, and all the added security. And then I pivoted to start to think about. There were many pivots along the way. I won't cover them all, but like, this was a way that you can avoid carrying bags and
Hmm.
put all the things you needed in your Scotty vest. And we still use that messaging, to get stadiums and to Disneyland, and on airplanes, and the like. And so, we went through that, and it was, selling one product at a time, one clothing article at a time. When I first started, having quit my full-time legal job for a massive law firm, was a big, huge risk. And somehow, slowly, did well. Didn't take any outside investors, and I thought I was going to be a billion-dollar company like everyone else
Hmm.
does. And I started thinking about outside investors, but then I just focused solely on profitability, and really kept my head down. And every day you said, I got to make money today. I'm not gonna raise money. I'm gonna make money. And I managed to double year over year, and then moved to Sun Valley, Idaho, and started doing really well. Most of our original business was based upon, I was I was a publicity whore, as you will
Hmm.
know. I would just send a different press release. Oh, new colors, new style. You want a Scotty vest, and I really treated, your you and as friends. And I would reach out, and I had a Rolodex, the likes of which I hired a number of PR firms, and didn't have terribly much success with
Hmm.
them. And I would just try to find different PR angle, whether it be buying a slingshot and putting, pockets all over it, writing a book called Pocket Man, and declaring myself the cartoon character Pocket Man, and going to trade shows and shaking hands, and having fan events, and everything was going,
Hmm.
coming up roses. And then I did Shark Tank, which you may remember, and I told the sharks they were out, and that was a big, that was hilarious. Yeah, and if you haven't seen that episode, we can talk about it a little bit that you like. But that was a big down, because I really thought I'd sell out all our inventory, but I wasn't allowed to mention my brand
Oh,
name for,
oh, wow.
so our website crashed, and we bought millions of dollars worth of inventory with the expectation that if you get 7 million, viewers in prime time to watch the show, that we'd sell out. And we didn't sell any,
Hmm.
because we were talking about this other brand name called Technology Enabled Clothing, which was the licensing company. and
I see.
and so then, I had to pivot, and try to, make a go of it. And I kept going, doubling, and started doing some television advertising and doing really well. And I turned the reins over to a president I hired to run the company, and they lost a couple $1 million. And the one thing about not having investors, you lose a couple $1 million, that's your own money.
Yeah.
It hurt. And this was 2018. And after he realized he kind of shit the bed, he quit with a week's notice, and I was like uncovering bills that were coming in and trying
Oh
to
no.
figure it out. My bank called the loan, and we're like, oh my god, I'm gonna have to declare bankruptcy. And this is after I was living big and thought I had it made. And so I rolled up my sleeves with the help of my wife, who I run the business with, and we reinvented the company and pared down expenses. And having established the company in 2001, effectively, we were dealing with some really legacy platforms, and we weren't on Shopify. We were on this platform called Miva Merchant, and
Mhm.
we weren't using Klaviyo. And for those of you in e-commerce, you know these names like the back of your hand. And so we reinvented ourselves and got nimble, and rebuilt profitability fairly quickly. And lo and behold, we're hit with a pandemic. And a pandemic is fine if you're selling yoga clothing or
Mhm.
app leisure, but if you're selling travel clothing, which is something that people came to associate Adibest with, you don't need a bunch of pockets if you're just going sitting in your basement.
Mhm.
So we regrouped yet again, and then through attrition, we lost most of our employees, not because all of our employees. We didn't fire anyone, but people just left for one reason or another, and we had as many as 20 employees at one point, and the last one quit. And my wife and I looked at each other after each one quit. We said, what are they doing? We can do that. And and before you know it, we have zero employees and have been extraordinarily successful lately in the past several years, and very profitable. And we're fortunate to have a clothing that does not have it's not obsolete.
Mhm.
That what the shirt I'm wearing now has been in the line for 15, 20 years now. It's a great performance
The
fabric clothing. But we have evolved, as you notice when we sent you a bunch of stuff in clothing. And so I mean that's the arc of the company. And now I'm not doing anything. My wife's running the show, and I'm just running around, evangelizing, I gallivanting, and I'm the chief pocket scientist, as I
So let's talk a little bit about that zero employee situation. I mean, that sounds like extremely fortuitous, right? The ability to just like lose all your employees and realize you didn't need them.
It's nirvana. Honestly, I have spent more time over the years onboarding, recruiting, training, changing passwords, having performance reviews, trying to mentor. I mean, all the activities associated with an employee relationship, building a corporate culture, and then it was just one at a time. We just literally said, as they left, we were like, we knew we had to do their job until we replaced them. And if your boss ever asks you to do a manual, please document everything you do so that we
Hmm.
have a manual for it. Heads up, you're
Yeah, you're
probably
about to
about to
go.
lose your
Yep.
job. Yeah. So, and conversely, if you ever update your LinkedIn profile out of nowhere, and your boss happens to take a look at it and notices how polished as that looked, heads up, you're telling your boss you're looking for a job.
Hmm.
But like I think we believed, you know, um, we thought for good reason that we had to have all our employees under our roof, and in the same building. Very 2000 and 18, if you will. And
Hmm.
we just felt that in order to build a corporate culture, in order to have the product at hand and have the product knowledge, and in order to walk across the office and have a conversation impromptu, that you needed to be in the same room, same building. And we learned as a result of COVID that that truly wasn't the case. We learned it through dealing with our suppliers and others, and when we outsourced our customer service, it's just something that we never wanted to do, because we really felt strongly that when you're typically know when you're dealing with offshore customer service, that we didn't want to do that. And we first did that, and found that, in Eastern Europe, if you pay these people well,
Mm-hmm.
which is not as well as you'd pay someone in the States with the necessary benefits associated with it, health insurance and the like. You can pay, offshore people, decently. They make a good living. They probably have several other jobs simultaneously, but and you train them well and you monitor them well, and they did an amazing job. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
so that was the first start, and then we hired. So we had a bunch of people in, like Croatia, and not many. It didn't take that many. We go. To do the work that was necessary, and then we had a guy in India doing like data processing, and then we had we outsourced our advertising, to an advertising agency that did a great job, and then we outsourced our graphic design through Upwork, and it's just these people
Mm-hmm.
became more and more available through the course of the pandemic, and we outsource our design through one of the factories we use, and we outsource our fulfillment, and my wife still manages the promotional calendar and inventory management, and she does the bookkeeping, and literally running a, I'm not going to give you gross numbers, but
Mm-hmm.
multi-million-dollar
Yeah.
company with
Just
zero
zero people.
employees.
What,
Zero.
was there ever a time when you thought it wasn't going to work?
Oh, many. I mean, yeah. I mean, I think when you step back and you think, and you really run a business with no people, and when that
Mm-hmm.
last person left, it was kind of an emotional. It felt like a stab in the back. I mean, it was. Wait a second, we're in this together. How can you leave me? I mean, come on, buddy.
Mm-hmm.
And and I'm fortunate to have an amazing wife. I don't know you ever met Laura. You probably
Mm.
corresponded with her, but she's the hardest working, smartest, most tolerant human being I've ever met. And she just, when you look at her and said, it doesn't work, you're bankrupt. I mean, you're literally bankrupt. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
everything that I've accumulated throughout my life, after that, we lost the $2 million, and my bank, which I had a net income covenant that I had to make money every year, otherwise they had a right to call the loan. I said, well, listen, I'm going to fund the company. I'm going to continue funding out of my savings, whatever's necessary to keep the company afloat, and beyond that, and you're not at risk because I've got liquidity covenants, and I don't understand this. Well, we'll work with you. We'll work with you. And they said they'd work with me, and out of nowhere, after I got in their quote unquote workout department, they said, well, I'm sorry, Scott, we're not going to renew the loan, and I thought we were screwed. I really
Mm-hmm.
thought, and then I had to get another loan, and I couldn't get reviewed financial statements because my accounting firm said without a loan, we're going to have to put a disclaimer in your reviewed financials that we're worried about your ongoing concern, some
Oh, I
weird
see.
language about.
Yeah, yeah.
I said, wait a second, I have a loan lined up, but the requirement for the loan is to get reviewed financials, and all you're supposed to do is to certify that the numbers are accurate. You're not here to certify whether the business is going to be an ongoing concern, but it is, because without the loan, I've got adequate funds to fund it. But so yes, at that point, I'm like, this is circular. How
Mm-hmm.
can I get a loan that requires reviewed financials, and you won't give me reviewed financials unless you put a line in
Unless you
there
have the
that
wrong. No, yeah.
I'm an ongoing concern. So yeah, yeah, it was craziness, and we've been through some litigation enforcing the patent, and there were moments there that was problematic. And when I first moved to Sun Valley, Scott USA, which makes ski
Oh,
poles
I
and
see. Yeah, I remember.
goggles,
Yeah,
yeah, they tried to sue us because they thought I was infringing on their trade name, and I was like, come on, guys, I can't believe we're having this conversation. So there's been plenty of ups and downs along the way, and you know and when one of my advertising agencies was presenting numbers that were inaccurate, and not taking all the numbers into account. When we did lose the couple $1 million, it was primarily a result of a 6 week period over Christmas in 2018, when the advertising agency was presenting a rosy picture as to the results of the television ads that was not entirely accurate. And
Mm-hmm.
they kept running the ads without the money coming, without revenues coming in. And there were lots of times, but none in recent days. We kind of really just figured it out. But what I learned though is to be happy with enough. Because as successful as I am, and we're very successful. I have everything you could possibly want: multiple homes, Ferrari.
Mm-hmm.
I'm living very well. That the dream of a private jet going public, and or selling. I looked at Bonobos, with the story of Bonobos and Andy Dunn selling to
Mm-hmm.
Walmart for $300 million. What I later learned is that they never made a nickel.
Hmm.
And the only people who ever made money in his business was him and his advertising agencies. That you really just have to focus on the profitability, and to recognize that there running what has been known as a lifestyle business is is not something to be embarrassed about. It's something to be proud of. You
Yeah.
know, um, in my case at least. But it took a while to come to that realization, to be honest with you.
Could you build your company now?
That's a good question. Could I, or could someone
Could
else? Let's
someone?
put it
Could
that
someone?
way.
If Scott Jordan was
I
like
think
was
it's
yeah.
really hard. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's really hard. I think I was fortunate to start at a time when PR was what it was. That good stories and good relationships, and people learned about things without spending money. Right now, the PR landscape, and I'm interested in your perspective. This is
Mm-hmm.
something to break through the noise now is is really hard. I like right now we advertise on Facebook to get new customers, and it costs a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
We're spending $2,500 a day on Facebook, maybe more. That's just any given day, and in exchange for that $2,500, we get probably $2,500 in sales.
Mm-hmm.
So
Oh,
it
okay.
seems like I'm barely breaking even until you think about lifetime value, and the halo effect, and that people are going to Amazon and the like. So I don't know. I think it would take a lot of money to start a new business now and break through. But then again, there's all these influencers and different ways that people are marketing that that we're not doing now. I think it's hard. I think it's
Mm-hmm.
hard. You think like Frank Ocean once, the famous musician Frank Ocean on GQ magazine. He was like on the cover. That was the music edition of GQ magazine several years ago. Not that many years ago, like 4 or 5, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
maybe a little more. He was asked as a part of his interview. He says, "Okay, well, thanks for telling us about your music. This is Gentleman's Quarterly magazine. Please tell us what are you wearing?" And this is a really hip guy.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, I'm wearing Scotty vest. Dude's got to get hip to Scotty vest. You can do all this stuff, put all your stuff in the sky. And GQ loved it so much they started promoting that that tagline, because it was so bizarre that
Mm-hmm.
this hipster or whatever rock star says Scott, and I just assumed that we were just forget about it. To get someone, an A-list
Wow.
musician, and we didn't get any sales from that. But years ago we might have. I think we would have. Um, I don't
Yeah, I
know.
think.
You tell me.
Well,
I'm really fascinated.
I think
How
that
did
I think that I
companies?
think
How would it? Yeah.
yeah, I think you're seeing exactly like what you described, right? The lack of escape velocity. I remember when you first started out, you had Woz like talking about it. Was Wozniak talking about it. You had like Scoble, all these guys who were popular within that group, and you were able to get both the younger folks like me, and you're also get like kind of like an older crowd who is like who wants to wear a fishing vest, right? Not a lot of people want to wear a fishing vest. Um, Now you basically you can't break through unless you're like spending hundreds of thousands in Instagram ads or whatever. I mean, you can, as long as if I'm inundated, if the user is inundated with your product constantly, 24/7, if they see it 50 times a day, they'll buy it eventually. But that 50 times costs you a lot of money. Like you said, $2,500 a day just to get $2,500 of sales. I mean, that's not actually too shabby because, as you said, those people might come back. Um, so you've kind of planted the seed there. So I suppose your things, but I think your style of outreach and your style of PR was really good, especially in the moment, because you kept us. First off, you didn't have a lot of competition. uh you
Still don't.
also kept
Still
us
don't.
aware.
There's,
Yeah, like
yeah.
we were well aware of what you were doing constantly, because we'd get your emails and it was fine. I don't think you can do that anymore. I don't think sending out emails, I can do a press release right now and I get bupkis, right? So
Leo Laporte,
mhm,
twit.tv. I mean, he used to talk about us for free just through
of
relationships. He
course.
liked me, he liked the product, and he would just, we'd do a coupon code, and, it didn't charge us a nickel initially. And we would get a ton of business through that friendship and that relationship. And then we did some print advertising and, full page ads in New York Times travel inserts. And we were able to get a significant business that was attributable, immediately. And,
Mhm,
you know, um, Chris Elliott, a travel writer, wrote about us quite a bit in some major publications. And then we did some crazy stuff. As this guy named Ralph Potts, he did a no baggage challenge, and
mhm.
he went around the world for 3 weeks with only what he could stuff in his Scotty vest, and
Mhm.
it was kind of gimmicky, but people were interested in it. But
That worked
you
fine.
know, it's really hard. I have mad respect for anyone who can break through the noise.
Well, we'd
I
also
mean,
argue.
even with your podcast, I mean, and what
Yeah.
you're doing, hats off to you to get back out there and start this podcast out of nowhere. I mean,
Mhm.
and I was
Well,
glad, I
it
was
used to
super
be
thrilled.
one TechCrunch post got you like 8,000, 10,000 views or visits or whatever, and now what a TechCrunch post gets you is nothing, quite literally nothing. Like the ROI is zero. Um, but still, there's some value there. What would you recommend to folks who are trying to start a like a not a I guess like a clothing business, or like a what would you call it? White goods business? I guess you would call it something like that. Is that what they
Oh,
call it?
I don't know what a white goods business is.
I thought I always I
You
always, I
know,
always thought it was like shoes and stuff. But anyway,
uh,
yeah.
you know, I, you know, I would suggest that I probably say don't do it,
Hmm.
but I mean, so many people told me that when I started. I mean, and it just motivated me. I would make sure that you focus on excellence.
Hmm.
I forgot there was a book when we were in college. It might be a few years. It's something excellence.
Hmm.
Peters. I forgot the name of the author. It's just the importance of doing things really well, and just whatever you did. There are no shortcuts. It's give excellent customer service. Obviously utilize AI. I'm happy to share with you how I utilize AI and all that I do, what it's helpful with and what it isn't. But from everything that you do, do it as perfectly as you can, and don't assume that anyone you hire to do something for you is better at it than what you could do it yourself. I
Hmm.
mean, I think that's one of the biggest lessons. I mean, we do our own books. We found our own factories. And we don't rely on many people to do for us that we don't know as much about the underlying thing as they do. And honestly, and that's not to say we don't rely on experts, but we become pretty well informed to know that we're relying on a really good expert. you know yeah,
Hmm.
it's not easy, and to work hard. There are no shortcuts, and
Hmm.
to adjust your mentality on what success looks like, because it doesn't look like Mark Zuckerberg. I mean, that's
Hmm.
that, and Elon Musk. Get that out of your head. That is not the goal. Honestly, if you could do something and be half as successful as I am, I mean, you're running call it a lifestyle business that you want. I don't care, but living your version of your dream and changing the world. In my case, one pocket at a time.
Hmm.
Then that's success. And also, don't focus like I started talking about earlier. I focused really. I waste a lot of time on getting a patent and thinking that the intellectual property was the most important thing, because that was the perception that when I got involved with business, make sure whatever you're doing, no one can knock you off, and frankly, I would have been better off if I had a competitor all these years,
Hmm.
because I just would have done better than them, and I still would, and it gives you something to compare yourself to.
It's actually lovely. All right. Well, Scott, so everybody has to go to Scott Evest. Get the. I like your shorts. I'm about to write a review of the shorts, and I like the jackets a lot. I've been wearing those for decades. It was there, and I could put like everything in there. And this was when laptops were like big. So, so well, thank you for this, Scott. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you, and good luck to you and all your endeavors. And come out and visit me in Sun Valley.
All right. All
Have
right.
some
All right.
fun.
This has been Keep Going. I'm John Biggs. We'll see you.